Welcome back to another Best Wildcard Team video. This time I had a Double Gameweek 27. I'm going to compare the few changes I have made from the previous draft and also my own Wildcard Team selection from Gameweek 26 and compare them and ultimately decide what is the best solution for those of you looking to wildcard in Gameweek 27. I know there'll be a huge clamour for Liverpool assets, but I would urge caution and to also not be too reactionary, and that's what we're going to do in this video as well. So if you end up enjoying this, then be sure to drop it a like. Let's try to get this video to over 300, and we're also looking to push on towards 20,000 subscribers. Leave any comments in the comment section down below in terms of suggestions. Maybe you think a certain player needs to be in here or cover a certain team more with maybe a double or triple up. I'm all ears with all your suggestions, but let's jump straight into this video and also a word from our sponsor. A massive shout out goes to Sorare, another fantasy game. So if you are looking to maybe broaden your horizons, play something completely different to UCL Fantasy or FPL, then I think Sorare is a really good game for you. You can pick up to 8 players, 2 in each position, 2 goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders and attackers, and you ultimately pick a 5-man squad. And when you start up, you don't need to spend any money. You can start with the amateur leagues and pick 5 common cards in your starting 11. And in the Premier League, as you can see on screen, I've gone for Ederson, Botman, Bukayo Saka, Rashford and Erling Haaland. I've got some decent players on my bench as well, like Jose Sarr, but I've ultimately gone for this 5, and my captain is currently on Rashford despite the 7-0 thrashing against Liverpool. And in terms of the captaincy, it's a bit different. Instead of the double up in points as you usually get, it's 50% of their score added on top of what they end up getting, and the prices are also completely different and innovative. They are based on the average points over the last 15 games, but there are so many things that make it unique. Be sure to check it out, and now is as good a time as ever to sign up with Sorare. They have released So Coins, so simply by just playing the game you can earn all these points and save up for merchandise, also match tickets and signed jerseys. So be sure to check out Sorare using the link that you can see on screen and also in the description below. It's sorare.pxf.io/DylanRCM. So click that link. It also helps me out as well. That would be massively appreciated. But you don't have to spend any money, like I said. All you have to do is play the game for free and enjoy it. So let me know down in the comment section below if you end up trying Sorare, and let me know your thoughts on the game and maybe some improvements going forwards as well. But now let's jump into the best wildcard team video for Gameweek 27. Robert Sanchez owners, especially those that wildcarded him in, have been very unlucky. No one expected the Zerbi to bench him, even with recent performances being a little bit shaky. And it looks very likely that Jason Steele will start both games in Double Gameweek 27. And that makes him a really appealing asset because Brighton blank in Gameweek 28, he's easily benchable. Raya obviously features in Gameweek 28 against Leicester. And then you can have 2 more Brighton players to have your triple up for the Double Gameweek in 27. And then you can easily bench them in 28 and also then get them back into your starting 11 and 29, or even bench boost with these players as well. So Jason Steele looks like a really good option as a second goalkeeper. I would argue he's the best goalkeeper at 4 million or below, surpassing the likes of Forster and Ward, despite Ward saving the penalty against Southampton and claiming 11 points. And those that maybe had Sanchez and Ward, fair play, at least that kind of luck balanced out in a way, and you got something which you deserved from Gameweek 26. But the main goalkeeper for me is David Raya. My only concern would be the fixture swing after Gameweek 30 when Brentford have a pretty tough period, and after that, that's when he would be more expendable and you could maybe go off without the likes of Raya. But right now, if you're wildcarding, he covers so many different game weeks. Doubles in 27 and 29, features in 28, and also has a high ceiling due to his bonus points and saves potential. And the other great goalkeeper options would include Nick Pope and Kepa Arrizabalaga. The main concern with Chelsea, besides their awful season, is the fact that Thiago Silva will be out for many weeks and months. Even Reece James is struggling with injuries, although you would expect him to be back very soon. And I think that could put a lot of people off from Kepa Arrizabalaga. Having said that, he's still a great goalkeeping option and still in my top 3 actually. But this is a different set of goalkeepers compared to the last video. Raya remains, but we have gone for Steele instead. I would back him to start both games in Double Gameweek 27. One thing we all learn very quickly in FPL is that you can't cover everyone and every single team. So many viewers will be asking, where is Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold and all these great assets like Luke Shaw? The simple answer is maybe now is not the best time to get them in, especially if you are wildcarding. I think this is the optimal 5 because you cover Gameweeks 27 and 28 and you can ultimately sell one of them in Zinchenko in Gameweek 29. I'll show you some brief transfer plans using FPL.team towards the end of this video as well. And if you go for Robertson and Trent and also go for Salah, and then all these Brighton and Man United assets, you're going to have a very depleted squad for Game Week 28, and you're going to force yourself into a free hit. If you're completely settled on that and you want a free in 28, then fair enough, you can go about things a bit differently and bring in someone like Trent, who is still my favourite Liverpool defender. But you could also argue that Robertson has been a superior FPL option in recent weeks. Having said all of that though, I would go for this 5. Zinchenko covers the next 2 game weeks very nicely, but in Game Week 29 I would potentially sell him to someone like Luke Shaw, but now is not the time, I think, to go for someone like Luke Shaw or Trent over Zinchenko. And then I've gone for a double up in Newcastle defensively. Not only do they have a double in 29 and a good fixture in 27 against Wolves from a defensive perspective, but they also have a decent fixture in Game Week 28 away to Nottingham Forest. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Forest actually scored or won that game, but I still think the fixture is there and the ceiling is obviously very high for the likes of Kieran Trippier. And Botman is not necessarily the best defender, but he's a budget option, very good value for money, and in terms of points per 90, he is superior to the likes of Fabian Schär and Dan Burn, but it's really close between those 3. And in terms of attacking threat, Fabian Schär is definitely the best of those 3. And the same goes for Ben Mee in my opinion. I know Pinnock scored yesterday against Fulham in a 2-2 draw, but ultimately with all these Brentford assets, including Rico Henry, it's a flick of a coin or a toss of a coin, whatever you want to say. And I think Ben Mee is the most likely. He's the one that Brentford always target from the set pieces, corners and free kicks, and he seems like the one that's most likely to score in a double game week or in any given game week amongst defenders. So I have gone for him, but those of you might be more interested in Pinnock after his goal. I wouldn't chase points like that in such a way. I like Pinnock's ownership. I think that's the biggest appeal about him, but don't just buy him because he scored in the last game, because it could easily be Ben Mee next or Rico Henry, who's probably the most consistent in terms of the offensive threat, but he will only really get assists, Rico Henry. Ben Mee is the most likely by far to get those goals from set pieces, and that would be a massive swing if he can land one in this double game week or even in 29 and 28. You can't rule out as well against Leicester, who struggle from set pieces all season. The last defender is Estupinian. He blanks in 28, but he has a high ceiling. He got the clean sheet against West Ham in 26, doubles in 27 and 29. After that, Brighton have some pretty poor fixtures, but for the next 3 or 4 game weeks, Estupinian is a fantastic option and my favourite Brighton defender. And if it was a case of, do I go for Steele or Sanchez, if you still believe he will start, or do I go for a Brighton defender, my answer would be go for a Brighton defender, even if it means he's more difficult to bench and to also assimilate and also navigate game week 28, because he has such a good ceiling. He's been very consistent over the last 8 game weeks, and the Ecuadorian just keeps on getting better and better. The biggest change on the wildcard compared to last week is Mohamed Salah in for Solly March, and that third Brighton slot has gone to Steele instead. At the end of this video, I'll provide my own verdict in terms of what is my preference overall. Do I prefer what I said in Game Week 26 or in 27? But those of you that are really insistent on Salah on a wildcard, then this is a really good way to get him in. You will have money in the bank as well, and you can plan some really good moves in the weeks to come too, not just for Game Week 28, but also for the double in 29 and beyond. But Salah, his form has been tremendous in recent weeks. We have to say that. Even against Wolves, when he got that haul in Game Week 25, he wasn't that great in that game, but still got the goal, and his attacking returns have been consistent in all competitions. Also against Real Madrid, a goal and an assist. He's been fantastic in UCL Fantasy, 5 double-digit returns in a row, and he's actually the top scorer at the time of this recording in the Champions League. And in the Premier League, he's had a bit of an inconsistent season, but slowly but surely, he's getting back on track, and it's a very big debate now in terms of who is the second best premium in the game. Is it Salah or Harry Kane? And with Erling Haaland's recent kind of inconsistencies, you could say, you could even make a case that Salah is maybe even the best in the last few game weeks, but I wouldn't get too carried away. And remember, with Liverpool, they blank in game week 28 and their double in 29 isn't great by any stretch of the imagination. They face Chelsea and Man City, and then they also face Arsenal shortly afterwards as well. So despite the Bournemouth fixture in 27, Liverpool have had very torrid times on the road this season. They've got a poor away record, and it's mainly at Anfield where they're accumulating a lot of points, goals scored and points in FPL. So be very careful, Liverpool. I know they won 7-0 against a great team in Man United, but be very careful. Don't just go for 2 or 3 on the wild card in terms of Liverpool players, because you might also have these Brighton and Man United assets, and if you don't have a free hit, it definitely wouldn't be advisable at all. But having said all of that, I like Salah. I'm looking to bring him him back in Game Week 29 potentially, but at this moment in time, it is debatable for sure. And in Game Week 28, of course, do not do it because he blanks. The rest of the midfielders include Odegaard and Bukayo Saka, who feature in Game Week 28. You could actually bench them though in 27 against Fulham, but then again, Arsenal are the league leaders and they have a great record in London derbies this season. I don't think they've lost a game actually against any London rival, including Chelsea, Spurs, Brentford and Fulham, who gave them a really good game at the beginning of this season. They took the lead, but then Arsenal made a comeback as well towards the end of that game. Then the other midfielders include Mitoma, who's my favourite from the Brighton midfielders, but then you might say, where's McAllister? Where's Solly March as well? And we'll talk about this towards the end. I would go for two Brighton midfielders potentially, but if I had to pick one, it would be Mitoma. He's my favourite, and I started him over Solly March. One of the only good decisions I probably made in Game Week 26 in terms of my team selection. And the last midfielder is Rashford. I think Man United will bounce back very soon, and it might take some time, but against Southampton at home, a great fixture to turn things around in the Premier League. And they've also got a Europa League game just before then. That would be the only concern, the rotation, also the energy levels, playing every 3 or 4 days. But I think Rashford is still one of the best, if not the best midfielder in FPL. And let's not forget about that, just because of one really poor performance, and he should have scored in that game against Liverpool. He's actually a good captaincy option against Southampton, but I would opt for a double game week player. Make a note of the date because I believe this is the first time since Game Week 3 where in an FPL wildcard video I haven't featured Erling Haaland. He can haul in Game Week 27 against Palace and also in 29 against Liverpool at home, but you have so many premiums like Salah and Bruno Fernandes with a double in 29 and also a better fixture in 27. You don't need Erling Haaland for the next 3 game weeks. He can haul, of course, he can come back to bite us, especially with his effective ownership, which will still be insane, but you're not going to captain him in Game Weeks 27, 28 or 29 most likely, and therefore if you are to wildcard, one really big advantage of that is that you can go without Erling Haaland and go against the grain, and if it pays off you can get a massive green arrow by going for some more lower owned differentials or just lower owned players in general. Harry Kane has great fixtures coming up over the next 3, you could say, also Everton in 29, but the main appeal is captaining him against Southampton in Game Week 28, and he's also a great captaincy option in 27 if it weren't for the doublers from Brighton and Brentford. I've also gone for Watkins and Toney. They remain from the previous videos as well, although Ollie Watkins is a bit of a weird one because I think in my last wildcard video I was really bigging him up. He had 5 goals in 5 successive games, a new record for Aston Villa, but I was talking about going for Erling Haaland right now, then getting Watkins in around Game Week 28. But to be fair, you can buy Watkins, bench him in 27 and then start him in Game Weeks 28 and 29, and because he offers such great value, he's quite cheap, he also can form part of a really solid bench boost squad where you can get up to 13, 14 or even 15 doublers for that double game week. But don't be too bogged down in terms of how many doublers you have. I think 10, 11 is already enough. Anything else would be a bonus because players like Haaland, even Bukayo Saka and Harry Kane can haul in one game, and this season more than most has taught us that we can't be too bogged down into the doubles, and we also have to look at these single game week options and not ignore them and forget what they've been doing for most of the season, especially when they have a really enticing fixture like Arsenal do at home to Leeds. And Ivan Toney did score and got 2 bonus points against Fulham. He's been fantastic all season, and despite maybe some inconsistencies since the World Cup, he still produced some big returns, 2 9-pointers and an 8-pointer. I'm hoping for more in the doubles to come, and also in Game Week 28 where it could be a low scoring game week. With this wildcard squad, I think the starting 11 speaks for itself. It will be difficult to bench some Arsenal players like Zinchenko, but I think it ultimately is necessary. So I've gone for Raya in goal. I think that's very standard. And maybe this is one downside of going for Steele in goal, because you will probably bench him if you go for Raya as well. And you will probably miss out a little bit on that third Brighton asset in double game week 27. But you will have him in game week 29 if you are looking to bench boost. But that is something to bear in mind. And one other thing about Steele is that he's not nailed on to be the starting goalkeeper for Brighton until the end of the season. But De Zerbi's comments have made me very convinced they will start both games in game week 27. He said that Steele is the better goalkeeper at this moment in time, and he also fits the way they want to play. But I've gone for Raya in goal. I've also gone for me, Trippier and Estupinian as the back three, and a midfield 5 of Rashford, Saka, Odegaard, Mitoma and Mohamed Salah, and then a front 2 of Harry Kane and Ivan Toney. It doesn't get much better than this, but I will show you later on that I do have another preference in terms of what I would do on the wildcard. I wanted to show you a different draft with Mohamed Salah in as well, for those of you that really want to get him in, but I don't think it's worth deconstructing your team, taking -4s, -8s, or even getting rid of the likes of Harry Kane to bring in Mohamed Salah, especially if it means losing that third Brighton asset for Double Gameweek 27. But the bench would be Watkins, Zinchenko, and Botman. You can even bench boost this team, by the way. If you don't want to bench boost in 29, I would definitely look to bench boost in 27 with this wildcard squad. Then looking to Gameweek 28, you would have a fairly solid foundation as well. You already have 10 players, but you don't have the 11th one unless you get rid of Rashford or Salah, but then you'd want to get them back in for Gameweek 29. But that's completely up to you if you want to do that. You've got Raya, Ben Mee, Trippier, Botman, Zinchenko, Odegaard, Saka, Watkins, Kane, and Tony. And I would favour Kane for the captaincy, although Saka isn't too far behind. And even someone like Ollie Watkins could be considered at home to Bournemouth. Then the last Gameweek I want to cover, I don't want to go into too many details from 30 onwards, but this team will be set up well for that period too, especially with all the free transfers you have along the way to deal with any circumstances such as injuries or any other possible news we get of future doubles. But in Gameweek 29, you could bench boost this team, and according to FPL.team, the predicted points is 135, which would be absolutely massive. So you can have Raya, you can bring in some players like Luke Shaw and also Maddison. So you can have Luke Shaw, Trippier, Estupinian, Rashford, Salah, Maddison, Mitoma, Watkins, Kane, and Ivan Toney. And then look at that bench. You've got Bukayo Saka, Botman, Ben Mee, and still, that's a fantastic wildcard team. But having said all of that, this will be my preference, and this is my current wildcard team. I don't have any regrets, despite not having Salah, which is my main concern for Gameweek 27. So I would go for Raya, Ben Mee, Trippier, Stupinian, and go for a triple up in Brighton, which includes Solly, March instead of Steele. And whilst you can point towards McAllister, who's a really good option, especially in recent weeks, I still think March was very unlucky not to get returns in Gameweek 26, and I believe he will outscore McAllister in Gameweek 27. I could be wrong, but that is my opinion, and let's see how it holds by the end of next week. But this is looking really solid as well. So I showed you some differences with Mohamed Salah in there, and still a fantastic wildcard squad where you can have up to 11 players in Gameweek 28. Plenty of doublers in 27 and 29, and you could even bench boost in Double Gameweek 27 if that's what you want to do. But ultimately, despite Salah's fantastic haul against Man United, would I go for him on the wild card? I wouldn't personally, but that doesn't mean you have to. And also with my own current team selection and the wild card I played in Gameweek 26, I'm still looking to potentially bring him in for Gameweek 29. And yes, I might miss his haul against Bournemouth, but I still think it's the right call for my own team especially, and it could be the right call as well for wildcarders, even in Gameweek 27. So let me know your thoughts. Do you prefer what you see on screen and my current wildcard team, what I played in 26, or the new version with Steele, Mohamed Salah, and also a few other changes like that? And would you go for another Brentford defender? I think it's very close and there's not a huge standout, but for me, Ben Mee is the biggest threat in terms of goal scoring, and you've also got all these other conundrums you want to sort out too. Would you go for Haaland on the wildcard in Gameweek 27, or go without him and bring him back in around Gameweek 30 or beyond? Let me know your thoughts to all these topics that we discussed in this video down in the comment section below. And thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 300 likes. Let's keep on pushing towards 20,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and you can also become a patron or a channel member, patreon.com/DylanRCM. You can become a member for as little as £3 per month, and it goes a long way to supporting the channel. And you also get a lot of bonuses, including early access to my videos, amongst other stuff like my team reveal. So thank you very much for all your support. Check the links in the description below, including Sorare, our sponsor for this video, and also the Discord server, the FPL League, and everything else that you see there. It's been a pleasure talking about the wildcard with you today. If you disagree with my thoughts in terms of the verdict, I do prefer my current kind of draft and what I went for in Gameweek 26. I might be a bit biased there, but maybe you have a different opinion. You might agree. Whatever it is, just be sure to let me know, as long as it's constructive. And I appreciate all the support that everyone has shown me, all the channel members, patrons, and those that send in super chats during the live streams. Thank you very much for all that support. And I'll see you very soon for the UCL Fantasy deadline stream, for all the other streams coming up basically this week, including the FPL deadline stream on Saturday. So I'll see you very soon, and I wish you the very best of luck for Double Gameweek 27.